Welcome to today's session on the next step in refining your business concept, which is to validate your product or service assumptions through market research. So why market research? This will help build confidence that you're on the right track, or it may help you pivot and further refine your business concept to mitigate any risks that you might uncover before you jump in head first. As you progress, your research will help you make important go or no-go decisions on different aspects of your business idea. It will provide you with the foundational data to create a solid business plan over time. Bottom line, your research will provide you with a clearer sense of direction as you keep going. So let's get started. You've identified the customer you want to serve. You have a great idea for a product or service, something that is bound to capture the minds and wallets of your target customer. Or perhaps you've stumbled on a service that isn't being offered by anyone else, one that is desperately needed. This is your big opportunity. So why hesitate to hit go? Small businesses are fragile, especially in our current economy and social circumstances. So as you think about entering the market, it is not enough for you to know what you want to provide to your customers. It's really important to know your industry and customers inside and out if you want to ensure there is a viable market, true demand, and a business that will be sustainable. Some entrepreneurs ignore this step, but let's look at the facts. We've all heard 50% of new businesses fail in the first year. That's actually wrong. According to the Small Business Administration and supported by several other sources, the good news is that only 20% of new businesses fail in the first year. So let's make sure you are part of the 80% who succeed right off the bat. Now, when I did my homework to find out why new entrepreneurs struggle, I wasn't surprised to find out that those that hit a roadblock are not spending the time to investigate the market, doing that proper market research to validate their business idea before they plunge forward. As such, often the most well-intended entrepreneur discovers there may be no market need, and their lack of market research results in a poorly defined business plan. So again, let's make sure you're part of the 80% that succeeds. I'm going to help walk you through the first steps in further evaluating your big idea with research to ensure it is a sound concept. While you'll never really know with 100% certainty how well your idea will do until you actually take that leap of faith and start your business, there are ways to avoid pitfalls before jumping in head first. The companies that do the best are the ones that do their homework. Before I go any further, I want to make a caveat. Everything I talk about today is meant to be a tool for the big toolbox you keep on hand and reference only when you need to. While there are many tools to choose from, you don't need them all at once. Actually, it wouldn't even be practical. You may only need to pull out a hammer or just a screwdriver, but not the entire toolbox. I don't want my coverage of market research to slow you down. Keep moving forward, especially if you are well tuned into your market and target audience. However, if you're brand new to exploring your market, or you want to turn your gig work into a full-fledged business, this type of research will be very important. So pull out each of the tools that I share as you need them along your journey. Now, I've packed a lot of information on the coming slides on purpose so that you can reference them later. This PowerPoint presentation will be available immediately after the session on the BoomerWorks website under past meetup materials. Now, there are two types of market research. The first is primary research. This is information that comes directly from the source. Methods include focus groups, online surveys, phone or personal interviews, where you gather fresh details on the market, the challenges your buyers face, as well as their receptivity to your solution. The other method is secondary research, more familiar to all of us. This is where you gather information from outside resources you have at your disposal. The good news is that there is plenty of information available and it's free. When starting your market research, there are 5 areas to look into, but not necessarily in this order. Remember, it's all about pulling out the right tool at the right time. One is market trends. What's going on in the market or industry that may impact the launch of your product or service? You'll also want to look at market potential, also known as market sizing. This will give you an idea of just how many potential buyers are out there in total and how many you may want to initially target. This will be important later down the pike when you start doing financial projections in terms of potential revenue. One of the most important areas is customer insights. This is where you really study your target market in great detail to learn who they are, how they're currently solving the urgent problem you're trying to help them with, and their propensity to buy and why they might buy from you. You never want to neglect investigation into alternative solutions. There's a lot to be learned by studying the competition, how products are priced, where their offering falls short and yours improves on solving the problem, and how they position their solution so you can focus on how you're going to differentiate. And finally, you'll need to test your product. This is where you jump in and conduct that primary research to learn firsthand what people think of your offer and whether they would pay for it. Now let's take a look at each of these 5 areas in a little bit more detail. As I mentioned, it's important to understand the changing dynamics of a market. You want to be schooled on the factors affecting your industry and consider their implications for your product or service. Now, in terms of resources, the best place to start, of course, is the internet. And yes, as you would suspect, Google will be one of your primary resources for information, as well as a source for where you can find information. So indeed, Google is your friend. Now, before you start taking copious notes on resources, I've prepared a market research resources guide with both public and private resources that includes descriptions and links to each. This document will be on the BoomerWorks website and available to you immediately following this session. So I'm just going to provide a quick overview of the types of resources to use. You'll want to use both federal and local sources as well as private commercial services to find market statistics, reports, and other research. Also, trade associations can offer a wealth of information and reference materials. Talking to others in a trade association can be one of the most valuable ways of gaining informal data about an industry, region, or customer base. If you can attend live or virtual industry events, you can pick up a ton of information firsthand, as well as talk to key industry players or influencers. Social media is another good way to learn about what's trending in your industry in real time. You can easily search topics or products. In the resources guide I've provided some tools that actually aggregate social listening to provide you with trend information and data. However, I would urge you not to fall into the lull of planning your business. You don't need everything to get started. Now let's look at market potential. Imagine you have no competition and your customer's only option is to buy your product or service. How many customers would you have? This is the size of your market. You're trying to determine how many people you could reasonably expect to be your customers. First, you have to determine all the possible people or companies in your industry that might buy your offering. This is known as your total addressable market. Then you whittle down to the actual number of potential customers that you can reasonably serve. Surprisingly, this is called your serviceable addressable market. And then finally, you determine what customers you want to start with, and this is called your initial target market. You may find that the market is too big in scope and it would be impossible to market to all of those people or companies. Or you can find that the niche market you're trying to serve is way too small to support a viable business. And as I mentioned earlier, once you have these numbers, later you'll use them to help develop your revenue projections. And this will be particularly important if you ever apply for a small business loan. Now, I've come up with an example of market sizing so you can see how to keep it simple. This is a B2B example, but with B2C, you'll find it even easier to identify and narrow your market. Sorry for the pause there, folks. I actually had a gnat fly into my mouth or some other yucky thing like that. So see, this is as if I'm doing this live. So back to market potential and market sizing. I'm starting with the business idea. I want to help construction companies improve efficiency and reduce costs by providing operational consulting. So let's narrow that down to companies with less than 500 employees, just to start. 700,000, that's a lot. It's a big market. So let's further define our market as small and make it less than 20 employees. That number goes way down to 643,000. Not a very big drop. Most construction companies in the US have 5 or less employees. Well, both of these numbers are big. They are your total addressable market. They're all the people that you could possibly do business with. Okay, so let's narrow it down to say you want to service the DC metropolitan area. Now you can even narrow it down to zip code, but let's stick with the region. There are just under 34,000 construction companies with less than 20 employees in the DMV. While this is your serviceable addressable market, it still may be too big to start with. So let's narrow this down to construction companies with at least 15 employees in the DMV. These folks are more likely to have the funds to pay for your stellar guidance. Now we wind up with 1,170 companies. That's a pretty reasonable start. So this would be your initial target market. So what started as broad is now specific to the DMV, small companies with at least 15 employees. Now I found all of this information on the US Census Bureau website under Statistics of US Businesses, and it took me less than 15 minutes to tabulate. So see, it's not that hard once you understand how you want to narrow your target market. Let's look at resources. There are plenty of US Census data tools. Even if you research, the research is from 2 years ago, it will give you a good idea of your market size. The site has more than a dozen market research tools and free industry research reports to help you get demographic, geographic, and business populations who might be interested in your offer. Another good site is the US Small Business Administration website. Their Office of Entrepreneurship Education has a variety of analysis tools and reports for learning potential customer statistics. Then there will be commercial sites like Statistica or marketresearch.com, but these are all included in the research resources guide I prepared for you. Customer insights is about fully understanding who your customers are and where they come from. You are gathering information to better assess opportunities and limitations for gaining customers down the pike. In B2B, key characteristics could include sector, industry, whether they're a small, medium, or large company. You want to know what your buyer's role is within the organization, who makes the buying decision, and who potentially influences that buying decision. Then you want to dive into the why, what, and how, such as their primary motivations and your specific needs and what keeps them up at night. Then look into how they're currently solving the urgent problem you're trying to help them with, and how often they buy, how decisions are made, where they get their product and service information, as this will inform your marketing strategy later on. Remember, all of these slides will be available to you after the session. Like B2B, you need to understand who your customers are before you learn why, what, and how. Key characteristics in B2C are naturally demographics, such as age, gender, location, family size, income, and other things that apply to the product or service you're offering. Once you narrow down demographics, you want to try to find out as much as you can about their needs, interests, personalities, and what influences their buying decisions. Read up on how the urgent problem you're trying to solve is impacting their lives and how they are solving that problem today. Try to uncover how they buy, where they buy, and again, where they gather their information on the types of products or services you want to offer. It's important to be thoughtful in this type of research, but don't overthink, or you may never get started. When you look at resources, much like other research, you're going to use government and commercial resources, but also investigate consumer opinion reports, social mentions, popular content that is read, and conduct some primary research. This is really important. Get out there and talk to people. Conversations will uncover a lot about your potential customers. Now let's look at competition. There may be a chance you have a unique business idea, but when you do that search on Google, you find there's already a product or service similar to your idea. If your idea is not unique, don't give up on your inspiration. Perhaps an existing solution needs improvement, or perhaps you can offer a unique twist and target a different niche with the same offer. So dig in and understand the competitive or alternative landscape. Make a list of main competitors, look at their offerings, target customers, and possible disadvantages in the market. I've listed a ton of important questions, but what you're really trying to uncover is whether there's room for a new player. Or what does a competitor's business that you won't have? And why would a customer pick their product or service over yours? Remember, at each stage of your research, you may need to make a pivot and rethink certain aspects of your business concept, target market, or how you plan to deliver your product or service. But this research will definitely help you determine your advantages as you continue to move forward. In terms of resources, there are plenty of resources for competitive intel. Several research firms, when covering an industry or market, will provide an overview of the major players. This can be found on a local and regional level as well as national. Trade associations are another good source, as well as online comparison sites like business.org. Or for B2C, there are even sites where you can find product and service pricing like Price It There. For B2B, there are several business information sites like D&B Hoovers, Owler, or ZoomInfo. They cover both private and public companies. Consumer review sites are a great place to start to find out what people think about existing products, services, or companies. There's Amazon, of course, Facebook ratings and reviews, Choice, Yelp, Google My Business, CNET, and many others. I've included a link in the resources guide to an article with the top 26 review sites for both consumer and business products and services. Along with secondary research, competitive intel requires primary research. It's okay to go directly to a competitor and ask questions, or talk to their suppliers to share information. Actually become a customer of their business or gain intel by talking with others at an industry event. The more you talk to people, the more you'll learn how to best enter the market and be unique. Again, don't get overwhelmed or feel that you need to use each of these methods. Pick the right approach that best suits where you are in your process. Don't let the perfection be the enemy of being done. Keep moving your business concept forward. Market testing. Okay, this is where the rubber meets the road. Market testing is a critical step if you want to answer, will anybody want your product or service? And more importantly, will they pay for it? This is the one area I really encourage you not to skip. You'll need to seek the opinions of other people. A great approach is to create an elevator pitch and take some virtual rides. Think of these conversations as informational interviews. Start with people you trust. Seek brutally honest feedback. Family and friends can be a reliable source, but be careful. They want to support your enthusiasm and may not be as honest because they don't want to hurt your feelings, or they might not really have the right knowledge of your industry and potential customer, especially in B2B. Social media can be a powerful tool for market testing if used properly. One approach is to contact influencers through direct messages and simply request feedback on your product or service. In the resources guide, I have included some sources that help you find the influencers in your industry. You can throw out questions about the urgent problem you've identified in online forums such as Quora, or carefully, and I mean carefully, use LinkedIn and Facebook groups to seek feedback. You never want to make a sales pitch. Remember, you're just looking for candid, unbiased feedback, and you'll be surprised how people you don't know will give you very black and white, honest answers. Another effective way to test your business concept is to conduct surveys directly with your target audience. But this costs money. But you don't have to have a list of potential buyers to start out with. Services like Google Surveys, SurveyMonkey, and Ask Your Target Market that both reach consumers and businesses can help you design a survey and target who you want it to be sent to. The invaluable input from your market testing will help you decide if you want to move forward with the business idea or shape any changes you need to make. And guess what? You may even identify opportunities you didn't even think about. With any of these methods, remember the toolbox. Pull out the right tools you need at the right time. Now I'm going to share my personal favorite way to test your products. Offer it for free. Find a couple of potential customers, a number you can handle, but at least two, and offer your product or service for free, with the caveat that they need to provide you with open and honest feedback along the way. People naturally want to help others, and it won't be hard to find a few who will want to give your offer a try, especially if it's for free. This way, you're gaining feedback firsthand from people who are actually using your product and service in real time. I've done this myself with different offers. Sometimes you have to readjust your solution, but better to do it now than after you sunk a lot of time and effort into your offer. And it's a great way to do price testing. What would these people pay for your product or service? I personally have found that people are usually pretty straightforward about paying a fair price, especially if you're providing them value. Especially, chances are that at this point you've honed your product or service to meet the demands of the right customer and the right market. So not only will you gain invaluable insights from doing free offers, you'll walk away with instant customer testimonials, and this will give you credibility in attracting other new customers. Well, I hope I haven't made it seem as though conducting market research is a daunting task. You'll be surprised just how much you can learn in a very short period of time, and you'll really be thankful for it later. Cover the bases, but again, don't carry the whole toolbox with you everywhere you go. Too much data can lead to analysis paralysis. Put your assessments into action while continuing to formulate your business plan. Consider market research an investment in your future. If you gain the proper validation or make the necessary iterations to your offer now, you'll save time, effort, and money in the long run, and you'll be best positioned for success. Okay, as I promised, I compiled resources and articles that will get you well on your way to conducting market research without getting overwhelmed. The link is on this slide, and you can also find it on the BoomerWorks website under Training Center Market Research. I hope this information is helpful, and good luck validating your big idea.